We're gonna get started on our backs. So have a nice roll of a towel or blanket that'll support the length of your spine and your head. And then whenever you get that ready, you'll just scoot it right up to your body and slowly lower yourself back down so that the blanket comes in between your shoulder blades, supports your head, all the way down to just your sacrum. And then two options for the legs here. You can either bring the feet together for Baddha Konasana, or you can take the feet as wide as your mat and knock the knees in. So however you're feeling today, if you're feeling like you want to start with more hip opening, then bring the knees wide, feet together. If you're feeling like you want more of a gentle back release, then bring the feet wide and knees together. And then you can bring your arms out wide, or you can bring your hands to your belly. So lots of options here. And wherever you are, allow the shoulders to each pool to each side of the blanket. Allow the rest of the body to be easy, almost effortless. You can bring the eyes to a close so that you can more easily focus on the breath. Just focusing on your natural inhale and exhale. We'll take a few minutes here to allow the breath to naturally slow down. And while we're here, allow that space between the third eye, between the eyebrows, relax. Allow it to unfurrow. Try to still the eyes, even if they're behind closed lids. Sometimes we have a tendency to look around and look ahead. So allow the gaze to be gentle behind your lids. And maybe move the jaw back and forth a little, allowing it to unhinge. And if you find that you're coming to the mat today with a lot on your mind or a lot of stress in your body, then move from that natural inhale and exhale to really focusing on deepening the breath. So making the inhale a bit longer and sending the breath down to the belly. And then allowing the breath to naturally come back out the nose. So if you're taking those mindful deep breaths, over the next breath or two, just return to the natural inhale and exhale. Allow the breath to be whatever it is. And if your feet are together, knees wide, bring your hands to your outer thighs. And just gently guide the legs back up to center so that the soles of the feet are on the mat. And if your feet are wide on the mat with knees together, just walk the feet together, everyone ending up with the knees hips width distance apart, feet hips width distance apart. And then slowly roll to one side, just coming off of your blanket here. You can move that blanket out of the way. We won't use it again until the end. And then rock back onto your back, knees still pointed toward the ceiling. And you can bring your hands to your hips here. We're going to take a couple of pelvic rocks, pelvic tilts. So as you inhale, you can press the sacrum into, or the sacrum into the mat, finding that arch in your spine, rocking the pelvis upward. And then as you exhale, really flatten the sacrum down to the mat, tucking the pelvis in. So take a few of those pelvic tilts with your own breath, inhaling to rock it forward, finding the arch in the spine. And as you exhale, flattening the sacrum, tilting the pelvis up. Noticing what your range of motion is in that lower back today and honoring it. So maybe you stay with more of a shallow tilt, or maybe you find your full expression of your arch. And take one more rock forward and back. And then return to that just natural arch in your back. And send the feet long toward the bottom of the mat. Bring the legs together, feet together. Point through the toes. And then reach the arms up and overhead. Either palms can find the ground behind you, or you can bring the hands together. And then take a big stretch through the body. Maybe move a little from side to side or wiggle your toes. Just that big morning stretch. And then release it back down. Arms can come back down by your sides and feet can separate here. Draw both knees in toward your chest and bring your forehead up toward your knees. Arms can wrap around the shins and find a little tiny ball here, getting as small as you can. And then release it out into starfish. So feet are wide, arms are wide. On your next exhale, bring it back into that tiny ball. And inhale to release it out into a star. And one more time, exhale to bring it in. And then release it back into that star. And from that star, send energy out the fingertips and toes. Maybe hug the shoulder blades together underneath the body. Just finding that full expression here. Maybe rock the head from side to side, but keep the energy flowing out of the limbs. And then you can release, easing back into the ground, allowing the elbows to bend slightly. Feet can be in their natural state, splayed open. And just notice what you're feeling in your body. Do your own body scan here, moving from head through shoulders and hips, fingertips and legs and toes. And notice if there's any place where you can soften in just a little bit more. And over the next breath, sweep the arms down by the sides and bend through the knees to bring the soles of the feet back to the mat, setting up for a few dynamic bridges here. So bring the heels in close to the fingertips. As you inhale, press into the feet, rise up, hands can come up overhead, finding the ground behind you. Take a full round of breath, inhale and exhale in the bridge pose. And after you've taken your full round of breath, slowly lower it back down. Take a full round of breath. And as you inhale, press into the feet and rise back up into bridge. Full round of breath whenever you get there. And on the next exhale, slowly lower it down. Full round of breath once you're back on the mat. We'll take one more round. So on the next inhale, press into the feet, rise up into bridge. And on the next exhale, slowly lower it back down. And from here, cross the right leg over the left, so you're thigh to thigh, and bring the arms either out to a T or out to cactus. Scoot the hips over to the right and rock the legs over toward the left, getting this deep twist here. And you can send the gaze over the right shoulder. So wherever you are, try to keep connection with the shoulders and the mat. And then release in through the body, allowing the twist and the breath to take you just a little deeper into the twist. On the next inhale, bring the legs back to center, the hips back to center, and uncross the legs. Then cross the left thigh over the right thigh. Maybe you twist all the way through by tucking the toes behind your ankle, or maybe not. And then send the hips over to the left as the knees drop over to the right, gaze over the left shoulder. Try to melt both shoulders down to the mat. And once again, allow the breath to help you release just a little bit deeper. And over the next breath, bring the legs back to center, hips back to center, and uncross the legs. You can take a moment to draw the knees into the chest, maybe circle the knees around one way and circle them around the other way. And bring the knees back to center. And then however you want to get there, I'm just going to roll to one side and onto my belly, but however you want to find yourself on your belly. And then hands come into push-up position. As you inhale, come up into baby cobra, toes pointed toward the end of the mat. And exhale to release. From here, sweep the left arm across the mat so that your forehead has a little pillow on your forearm. And then bend through the right leg. Maybe you can reach back for that right foot. Just getting a little bit of a thigh stretch here. And if you'd like a little bit more sensation, you can press the hips, the pelvis into the mat. So as if you were doing that pelvic tilt, but toward the mat this time. And you'll feel a little more sensation in the thigh. And then once again, use the breath to help you release and surrender into the pose. And if you have the foot in your hands, let it go, bringing both legs long toward the bottom of the mat. And bring the right hand into push-up position and left hand into push-up position. As you inhale, rise up to baby cobra. And exhale to release. We'll do that stretch on the other side. So this time, bring the right hand across the mat, using the forearm as a pillow. Bend through the left leg, and maybe reach behind for the left foot to help it come closer toward the glute. And then if you'd like to, you can press the pelvis into the mat, feeling that stretch through the thigh. So wherever you feel the stretch, you can stop there, wherever you feel enough sensation for you today. And then you can gently release the foot if you have it. Left hand comes into push-up position, right hand comes into push-up position, and inhale to rise up into baby cobra. Exhale to release, tuck the toes, push back into downward facing dog. So repose your dog. If you need to pedal out here by straightening one leg and bending the other, take a moment to move in any way that your body is calling for. And then find some stillness. Pressing the palms into the mat and tracking the heels toward the mat. Maybe they touch, maybe not. And allow the head to hang heavy. We'll be here for 5 slow, full rounds of breath. From here, keep the top of the body in your downward facing dog and just drop the heels over to the left. Feel that stretch in the right side body. And then bring the heels back to center, find your dog. And drop both heels over to the right, staying pressed through both palms evenly, this time feeling a stretch in that left side body. Inhale it back to center. And float forward into a plank pose. And drop the knees down to the mat, finding tabletop. So make sure that the wrists are beneath the shoulders and the knees are below the hips. Give the hips a little rock from side to side. And then come back to center. Inhale to drop the belly, lift the gaze. And exhale to round the spine, drop the head. One more round of cat-cow. Inhale to drop the belly, lift the gaze. And exhale to round the spine, drop the crown of the head. Come back to center and start to take some big barrel rolls here. So moving clockwise, allowing the belly to drop and then the spine to round, just moving in these circles, maybe bending your elbows if that helps you to find that round shape in the center of the body. So just as if you're sweeping the inside of a barrel, trying to get every plank that's there. And then come back to center and start to take it the other way. So counterclockwise, really rounding through the spine and then dropping through the belly. And then slowly coming back to center. Send the right leg long behind you. And then step the foot in between the hands so the back left knee is still dropped on the mat. Allow yourself to sink in here a little bit, opening up that left hip flexor. And we'll be here for a few rounds of breath. Just allowing the breath, allowing gravity to drop us a little closer toward the back of the mat with that back hip. But probably so microscopically that you wouldn't see it. Use the breath to open up the body and to keep it steady. And then plant the left palm on the mat. Sweep the right arm up to the side for a gentle twist. And exhale to release. Step the right leg back, coming back in a tabletop pose. And take one round of cat-cow here. Inhale to drop the belly, lift the gaze. And exhale to round the spine, drop the crown of the head. Come back to neutral. Send the left leg long behind you. And then step it through in between your hands. Once again, finding that low lunge here so the right knee is on the mat. And you can let the right hip flexor begin to open. See if you can keep the knee, the left bent knee above the ankle. Then plant the right palm as the left arm floats up to the sky, gentle twist. And then release the left hand back to the mat. Come back into tabletop pose, one round of cat-cow. Coming back to neutral, bring the toes together, knees wide, child's pose. For this child's pose, see if you can keep the arms out long in front of you. Maybe even coming up onto the fingertips to further open through the upper back and allow the heart to melt down toward the mat. Let the belly really be free and open in between your legs as it drops toward or to the mat. And then plant through the palms, tuck through the toes, rise up into downward facing dog. And once again, keeping the top of the body the same, drop the heels over toward the right, getting that stretch in the side left body. And then heels back towards center, repose your dog. And then heels toward the left. Feeling the stretch through that right side body. So if you're not really feeling the stretch through the right side body, press more into the right palm so that you're staying even in the top part of your body that's shaped in that down dog. And then bring the heels back through center. Inhale the right leg back up behind you. And exhale to step it through in between your hands, this time keeping the left knee up off the mat. And we're gonna slowly, as we can, rise up into high lunge. So just hover the fingertips. Take several breaths, several beats to rise up into that high lunge. Eventually, gaze comes forward, arms come up and overhead. And then bend a little bit more deeply through the right knee. And open the arms up wide out to a T. Hinge at the hips so that you're at an angle over your thigh. And we're gonna take these gentle twists from side to side. So twist toward that, toward the right side, maybe tapping the inner arch or the ankle with your fingertips. It's also a little balance challenge too. And then come slowly back to center, keeping that long spine, arms long in a T, and slowly bringing it over to the other side, over to the left, maybe tapping the left ankle or the outer edge of the foot with your fingertips. Come back through center. And one more time to each side. Twisting over toward the right and tapping the ankle. Back to center. And then twisting over to the left. And tap the ankle. Come back to center. And rise up into your high lunge, both arms up and overhead. And then reframe that right foot. Plant the left palm as the right arm floats up to the sky. Reframe the right foot. And step back in a downward facing dog. Pedal it out here. And then find some stillness in your dog. We'll take 5 full rounds of breath here. And then sweep the left leg back behind you. Exhale to step it through in between your hands. So root down into the back toes, into the front foot. As we slowly, slowly, slowly rise up into high lunge. Take your time in getting there. Arms sweep overhead. Head eventually rises. And rebend into that left knee. And then sweep the arms open into a T. Hinge at the hips. And we'll find those twists from side to side. So this time twist over toward the left first, keeping the arms into a T and tapping the ankle. And then slowly coming back to center. And then slowly twist over toward the right. Tap the ankle. One more to each side. Moving nice and slow. Feeling that strength in your roots. And then come back to center. Whenever you're ready, sweep the arms up and overhead into your high lunge. And exhale to reframe the left foot. Plant the right palm, sweep the left arm up to the sky. Reframe the left foot. Press back in a downward facing dog. And then sweep forward into plank pose. And lower yourself all the way down. Inhale up to baby cobra. And exhale to release. We're gonna take those same thigh stretches again. So sweep the left arm across, using it as a pillow under your forehead. And then bend through the right knee. Maybe grabbing the foot to draw the foot toward your glute. And then maybe pressing the pelvis into the mat. Release the right foot. And just switch the cross of the arm across the mat. So the right arm sweeps across to use as a pillow. Bend through the left leg, maybe reaching for the left foot. And press the pelvis into the mat. Release the left foot. Bring both hands to push-up position. Inhale up to baby cobra. And exhale to release. Press the toes in, downward facing dog. And take tiny steps to find yourself at the top of the mat for a forward fold. From here, you can grab opposite elbows or just let the hands hang heavy toward the mat. And if the elbows are clasped, let them go. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale to fold forward. Sweep the arms out to the side, root to rise. Arms come up and overhead. And exhale, hands come to heart center. Inhale the arms out and up. And this time, palms come together. As you inhale, really stretch out of the arms, out of the fingertips, and exhale to bend over toward the right side. Open up through the chest, just finding this long side body. Inhale back to center, and exhale, bend the other way, so toward the left. Inhale back to center. Take that one more time to each side. We'll meet back in the center whenever you're ready. Release the arms down by the side. And then once again, inhale the arms up and overhead. As you exhale, hinge at the hips to fold forward and step back into plank pose. We'll hold here for a couple rounds of breath. And then drop the knees down to the mat, coming into tabletop position. From here, drop the forearms down to the mat. And you can send the legs long behind you, coming into Sphinx pose. So the elbows are about an inch in front of the shoulders or just below the shoulders. Press into the palms to stay lifted out of the shoulders. And then bring the legs together behind you. So you're really strong from toes to fingertips and through the head. Gaze can be down toward the hands. So stay lifted out of the shoulders by pressing into the forearms and into the palms, and we'll be here for 5 rounds of breath. Okay, so from here, you'll begin to press into your left hip, into your left leg. Keep the hands and forearms as they are, and just begin to roll the right leg on top of the left. and maybe tap that right foot behind the left. So press into the forearms to stay lifted. Feel a little release in the lower back. And then slowly unwind, slowly through this transition, coming back to Sphinx. And we'll take that to the other side. So you'll begin to roll on, press into the right hip as the left leg comes on top of or over the right. Feeling a release in the lower back on this side. And then let it roll back to center slowly here. And we'll hold Sphinx pose for 5 more rounds of breath. Readjusting in any way you need to, making sure to stay lifted. Slowly lower the forehead back to the mat. Bring the hands into push-up position. And inhale back up through downward facing dog. And slowly lower down into child's pose. Toes together, knees wide. This time you can keep the arms out in front of you or tented fingertips, or you can sweep the arms back behind you. Whatever feels the most gentle for you. Let that belly release. Find that slow, natural breath. Inhale and exhale. If they aren't already, bring your hands back out in front of you. And then press into the palms, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg back up behind you. And exhale to step it to the outside of the right hand. And then bring the left foot to the outside of the left hand, finding Ardha Malasana. Toes a little wider than the heels. And then if it's calling to you, you can sink all the way down into Malasana with the hands at heart center. And then release the hands down to the mat. Bring the toes to face forward and rise up into a forward fold. So just straighten the legs. Once again, and you can toe heel the feet back to hips width distance apart. And you can either grab opposite elbows or let the fingertips hang down toward the mat. And then if you've clasped elbows, release them. Inhale to halfway lift. And exhale to fold forward. Sweep the arms out to the side, root to rise. And exhale, hands at heart center. Inhale the arms out and up. And exhale to hinge at the hips as you fold forward and step back into plank pose. Lowering all the way down to the mat, however you'd like to get there. Release the toes and send the arms out long in front of you. Zip the legs up So you're kind of this Superman pose. And then root the pelvis toward the mat and get nice and long through that left leg as you bring the left leg up off the mat, pointing through the toes, and send the right arm up off the mat. Holding here. And then exhale to release. And then we'll move to the other side. Root down through the hips first, and then get nice and long, pointing through the toes of the right foot. Gently bringing it up off the mat as the left arm raises up off the mat. Exhale to release. One more on each side. Get long through that left leg. Left leg rises, right arm rises. And release. And last time, long through the right leg rises, left arm rises. And release. Let's take a moment here, maybe rock the hips from side to side, rock the forehead from side to side. And we'll bring the arms down by the side. Forehead is on the ground, palms face up. Actually, palms face down. Root through the hips, get long through both legs. And as you inhale, legs will come up off the mat. You can use the palms that are in connection with the mat to help the legs lift a little more. And exhale to release. This time when we rise up, you can flip the palms over or keep them down toward the mat. And we'll bring everything up this time. As you inhale, press into the pelvis as the head and hands and feet, maybe the thighs, come up off the mat. Roll the shoulders back. One more breath here. And exhale to release. Rock the hips from side to side. And bring the hands back to push-up position. And just push back onto your knees. So we're going to get set up here for supported pigeon. So just use that same blanket roll that you had from the beginning of class. If you don't have a blanket handy, you can just roll your mat and use that as your blanket roll. So whatever you have is great. And then if you know where we're going, you can go there. Otherwise, push back up into downward facing dog. Inhale the right leg back up behind you. And exhale, bending through the knee, take the shin up and over the blanket, and then reposition the blanket underneath your hips. So you want it under both hips here. And then extend the left leg long behind you, untuck the toes, and find a moment to find a rise here. So open through the chest, finding that back bend once again. You can either feel free to stay here or slowly lower yourself down, maybe using your forearms or another prop as a pillow. Just find a place where you can stay for several rounds of breath. Allow the hips to sink down toward the mat. Once again, allowing the belly to release. And if there's any place in your body where you're holding tension, try to bring that to the surface and see if you can soften it, if only for a few breaths. If you have folded forward in the sleeping pigeon, rise back up. And then wherever you are, tuck the back toes, move back into downward facing dog, maybe three-legged dog, opening up the hips if there's any movement that your body needs before moving to the other side. Honor that and take the movement. And whenever you're ready, you can sweep the left leg back up behind you and exhale to step it through, up and over that blanket, repositioning if needed. Allow those hips to be supported and then release the right toes. Find that lift through the chest and that back bend. And if it's calling to you, fold forward. Again, honoring the differences between the sides of the body. Use these last few breaths in this pose to allow the hips to sink down toward the earth and be supported by the prop that's rising up to meet them. And if you've folded forward, gently begin to find yourself rising back up. Find that opening of the chest first. And then you can move back for your three-legged dog or any movement that your body is calling for on this side. We'll meet in downward facing dog. And then you can drop the knees down to the mat. Scoot your prop out of the way if it's still there. And just come to sit, bringing the soles of your feet on the mat, the mats width distance apart. See if you can use your fingertips behind you to help you sit up nice and tall. And then we'll just take some seated windshield wipers. So rocking the knees over toward the left. Maybe the gaze can go over the right shoulder. And then bring them back to center. Rock them the other way. Gaze toward the opposite shoulder. Sit up nice and tall through that spine, readjusting anytime you need to. And then at your own pace, move from side to side. So either feel free to hold in that twist or move a little quicker. And we'll come back together over the next few breaths, just bringing the knees back to center. And from here, bring the soles of the feet together, coming into Baddha Konasana. You might need to adjust the flesh here so you can really stay rooted through the sits bones. And maybe this is a really wide diamond here, or you can bring the feet in a little closer together, wherever you feel comfortable today. And then inhale as you bring the arms out wide to a T. Send the energy out the fingertips. And then cross the left arm over toward the right shin. And gently touch the back of the head with your fingertips. So once again, just finding that long stretch through the spine. Gaze can go up toward the corner of the room, or it can be down toward the mat, wherever it feels comfortable for you. And then release, coming back up through center, arms nice and long. And we'll find it the opposite way. So the right arm comes over toward the left shin, and the left fingertips come toward the back of the head. Gaze either up toward the corner of the room or down toward the mat. And slowly rise back up, release the arms back out to a T, and keep them there. We'll just take a few circles with the head. So you can drop the cheek over toward the right shoulder, and then chin down toward the center of the chest, and then cheek over toward the left shoulder. So finding these half circles here, moving at your own pace, and feel free to hold in any spot where you feel like you need a little stretch. Try to keep the shoulders softened away from the ears. And the next time your head comes back through center, gently rise the head up, gaze forward. And here we're going to take a forward fold. I'll give you two options. And I took my feet a little bit away from my body, but it's up to you how you want to repose this. You can either bring your hands down and begin to walk the hands out, hinging at the hips with a flat back. Or if you'd like a little bit more compression, which is feeling really nice for me lately for some reason, you can sweep the arms underneath the shins down toward the ankles, palms face up. Again, hinging at the hips. Wherever you go, you're going to keep a long spine. Allow the gaze to be gentle down toward the mat in front of you. And use that breath to help you go just a little bit deeper as you settle into the pose. So you're really just effortlessly moving deeper. And drop the crown of the head down toward the mat to help you round through the spine and either unwind or rise back up slowly. Head rises last. Send the legs out long in front of you for just a second to loosen up, give them a little shake, maybe a little massage with your hands. And then find your way onto your back, knees bent. As we find our final poses of this practice, we'll take that same spinal stretch that we did at the beginning of class. First, bring the shoulder blades a little bit closer together underneath your back, and then cross the right thigh over the left. Sweep the arms out to a T or to a cactus, and scoot the hips over to the right as the knees drop over toward the left. See if it feels any different than it did at the beginning of class. Maybe you can tuck the toes behind the ankle, and then send the gaze over the right shoulder. If it helps, you can bring the right hand on top of the thigh, just for a little extra weight there. Maybe you go a little bit deeper. And then slowly rock the knees back to center, hips back to center. Uncross the legs and take one rock of the pelvis, rocking it forward and back to tuck the sacrum on the mat, scooping the pelvis up. And letting it come back to neutral. Cross the right thigh over the left thigh over the right. Maybe tuck the toes behind the ankle. And then scoot the hips over toward the left, knees rock over toward the right, and gaze goes over toward the left shoulder. And you can bring that right hand on top of the thigh if you'd like to. And slowly bring the legs and hips back to center. Uncross the legs and hug both knees into the chest. Maybe give them a little rock back and forth, giving your low back a little massage, possibly taking some circles one way, and then take them the other way. If happy baby is calling to you, you can reach for the outer edges of your feet. Or if there's any final pose that you'd like to take before allowing yourself the release into Shavasana, go ahead and take that now. Because we did so much back work today, it can feel nice to use that same blanket roll that we had underneath your knees in Shavasana. And when you find yourself in Shavasana, close the eyes and let the whole body be fully supported by the ground below you. Return to that naturally deep and slow inhale and exhale. Just give yourself the gift of the next few breaths of fully releasing through the body. And then you can begin to bring some awareness back to the body and breath. Some movement through the fingertips and toes. Whenever you're ready, rolling onto one side and spending at least a full round of breath there. We'll meet in a seated position with hands at heart center and eyes closed whenever you're ready to get there. And I'll end with this quote from Bob Dylan that I came across today, which feels both poignant and lighthearted, as Bob Dylan often does. Boy, I hurried. I hurried for a long time, and I'm sorry I did. All the time you're hurrying, you're not really as aware as you should be. You're trying to make things happen instead of just letting it happen. You follow me? So as we end this practice tonight, Notice where you're hurrying and where you can slow down. And notice where you're forcing and where you can let things just happen. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Namaste.